Assalamu alaikum, good morning, khush amdeed, ji ayanu, goeiemorgen, Ispata.
Pakhair Lagale, Ni Hao, Tuna Shumme, Washmale, Ohio, Gozaimes, Guten Morgen, Hola, Bonjour, Privyet, Kaifa Hal, Hale Shuma Chatore, Ahlan Wasalan, Marhaba, Buna, Mucho, Gracias, Swabia, Balli Karaya. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning into PTV World. You're watching World this morning. Alongside the very fantastic, the very amazing, the someone I would actually kind of prefer to work with, ladies and gentlemen. She happens to be Miss Shiza Hashmi, and I happen to be Shahzad Hassan Khan. And we hope and pray that everybody out there is doing wonderfully fine and they're ready to kickstart their day with us. Hello, Shiza. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, thank you so much for asking. And just for the sake of declaring it as well, you are my favorite co-anchor too.
Oh, thank you very much.
Well, you know what? I feel like we should actually start our show on this note as well. So for all the people out there, I have a small message, and I feel like we have spoken about it before.
Sure.
Naturally, Shahzad, we are somehow surrounded by people, one way or another, who love to talk about other people behind
Gossip.
their backs. Gossip, right.
Yeah.
And if we're being very honest, you know, at one point in our lives, maybe we were those people as well. Or unintentionally or intentionally, we have been those people too. First of all, we try not to be them anymore, right?
Exactly.
Because
Shukr, alhamdulillah.
yeah, alhamdulillah, because I feel like at this point in life, we cannot condone this behavior anymore. When I say we, I'm talking on behalf of both of us because we share sort of a similar mentality. So here's a task for all of you people out there who wonder, how can you sort of not be a part of such an atmosphere or gossiping without being rude to the person who's doing it? Just sort of, first of all, you know, just don't make a comment of whatever they're saying. When they notice your silence, they're definitely going to get a message and, you know, sort of step back.
Yeah.
And secondly, if you're still forced to sort of make a comment, just politely be able to say, it's not fair since the person is not in your presence. Let's
Exactly.
talk when the person is in our presence.
Wow.
I really did want to talk about it because, well, you know, it happens almost every other day, and I'm not sort of pointing fingers or blaming anyone, but when it does happen and when I am in that situation, I feel like I'm a part of it. I don't
Exactly.
want to be a part of it, right?
Exactly, and thank you very much for saying that, because Shiza, it does not really stop over here, because half of the
Right.
time people are doing so because they really do not have anything productive to talk about, number
True,
one.
true.
And number two is that, you know, even if they have had differences with such people who they were talking against, I think that the problem lies in that the other people kind of become party to the kind of conversation they're having, rather than going and talking to the same person who you had problems or issues with. You know, why would we choose to kind of sit down with a group of people who are our friends and who are going to support us with whatever we are going to say, anything about the other person? Please do not do that. The Islam does not allow that as well. But not just that, I think that there is a modern system for it now as well.
Okay.
So we do not call it gossiping, but we call it commenting. You know, so what happens is, because just yesterday I actually uploaded a picture on Twitter, and you know, there were so many people coming down because I was wearing a jeans which was torn, you know, so it was a rugged fashion kind of a day for me. And people had so many things to say. People were like, hey, bhaiya, pant nahi le lo, you know, things like that. And you know, they kept on making sure that, you know, that they're actually going to kind of hit me on where my sensitive areas would be, but you know, it does not really make a difference. In fact, towards the end of the day, I actually liked all the comments, and I was like, hey, do whatever you want to do. I mean, we are public figures for a reason, and I think everybody kind of needs to have the sense to themselves that, hey, you know, anybody can say whatever they want to say, but you have to pick and choose what thoughts you want to keep with you and what
Absolutely.
thoughts you want to kind of pass on as well.
Right, Shahzad, you're absolutely right. I mean, people will say what they want
Yeah.
to, but only choose what gets to you. But you know,
No, but there was
doesn't-
a point, Shiza, over here. So I'm sorry.
No
The
problem.
point was over here that, you know, people gossip. It's because of the fact that there are some things which they cannot say to their face, right? Even if you can say it to their face, make sure that you say it in
their
some
face,
lone time where, you know, you and the other person is just by themselves, and that's the time when you really need to converse about it. But people do it on social media because people know that they're never going to come right in front of our faces, and they
Yeah.
get to say whatever they want to say.
Exactly. And you know, this is sort of what I was going to tell you about the comments that you were
Yep.
talking about. You don't take them personally because it has nothing to do with you.
True.
It has a lot to do with the person that it's coming from.
Exactly.
And Shahzad, don't you feel, where you said that you're a public figure, so maybe you're sort of open to these kind of criticism?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I do sort of understand that when you have an open account, people feel like they are entitled to their opinion. This
Exactly.
is where education comes in. And you know what, ladies and gentlemen, we do exist in a cybersphere. We have spoken about it so many times, and we have sort of reiterated the fact that we need to make it safe, because at this point there's no turning back or saying I don't want to be a part of the modern world, so I'm going to ditch my phone and my laptop. It's not going to happen,
Yeah,
right?
obviously.
We all have to coexist with all these things, and especially with the newer innovations in ICT and Pakistan hopping on to the innovations as well. I feel like we should make the space safer rather than sort of pointing fingers at people.
Exactly.
So how can we do that? I feel like, well, of course, Pakistan does have policies in terms of cybersecurity, trying to make sure that each and every single citizen in Pakistan is definitely safe in terms of using the internet. But Shazad, it doesn't come to the individual level anymore. I mean, the newer modern warfare that we talk about between nations and then nation states as well, it is happening on the cyber sphere, or cyber espionage is one of the attacks. Actually a type of attack that happens through internet using some of the services, and you don't even know where it comes from, and the amount of damage it can do to you is just surreal. Just recently, one of our government's website was also a part of a victim sort of to these attacks as well, and I feel like we need to talk about it. Pakistan's government has realized and allocated budget to it as well, because they want to make their own websites and institutions and the safety of their people real.
Exactly. Thank you very much for saying that, Shiza. I think that you've wonderfully explained it to the audiences out there in 46 different countries as well. And ladies and gentlemen, this is the way forward. And there's a reason why we're talking about it. It's because of the fact that today actually happens to be the International Day on universal access to information, and everybody has got right to information as well. But then there are people who will disinform you, then there are people who will inform you. So you really need to have a check and balance as well. But coming down to, in particular, talking about cyber security, we obviously need to talk about our cyber policy as well. And there's this hackathon which is taking place. Why do you think that there was a need which was felt by the government that, okay, we really need to kind of check our talented youngsters whether they can be a part of it or not. There's awards worth rupees 6 million as well, which will be given or distributed amongst the people who will be a part of the hackathon as well. So we'll be talking about it. Not just that, we want to kind of ask what is the correlation in between cyber security and digital Pakistan, and then obviously we'll kind of move forward as well. So without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, we're very lucky that we've actually been joined by somebody who happens to be a member IT, Ministry of Information and Technology as well. He happens to be Sayyid Junaid Imam Saab. Hello sir, Assalamu alaikum, good morning, welcome back.
Walaikum salam, good morning.
Thank you very much sir for joining us, wonderful to have you. And it's usually, this is something which I've witnessed, because a lot of my friends who are working at Silicon Valley these days, they carry the same energy as well. I don't know. I think it's something with information and technology. So whatever you have, all the energy you kind of, I think, invest in the laptop and the computers and the softwares. Is that true?
Well, partly yes, but if you look at information technology, there is, because it's not a very old technology, so generally the people you find in this area, they have experience of less than 20-25 years or so generally, so they are generally younger people. So you find more energy there.
Right, got it. So today, like you said, happens to be the International Day for Access to Information as well. I want you to, being a practitioner of this field, sort of explain it to the people how important it is to have a safer place to operate, cyberplace.
Okay, let me give you few numbers.
Yes.
Which will explain everything.
Please.
It's estimated that in year 2020, last year, the businesses globally lost almost $20 billion because of the cyber attacks.
Oh wow!
And
insane.
This gives a clear. And if we don't focus on this, if we don't cover ourselves for this number will grow exponentially. So that's the business side. But like you mentioned in your preamble, the warfares that are going to take place in the future, it's based on data.
Yes.
So it's very important that on one hand, we are promoting Digital Pakistan, where all the government processes, the government services to citizens, they will be on the digital infrastructure and digital ecosystem. The citizen data, the government data, everything will be on this digital platform. So at the same time, we realize it's important that we have to secure this infrastructure, and we have to ensure the privacy of the citizen and the businesses. So our Digital Pakistan policy has multiple pillars. One of the pillar is privacy and security.
Yeah.
So for that, we are taking different steps on the security side and the privacy
Yeah,
side.
and we are definitely going to talk about it as well. But you know, in terms of where we talk about cyber security for Pakistan, ladies and gentlemen, we actually have a report to share with you all as well. Go ahead, take a look, and once you guys will come back, obviously we will talk about the correlation and what the 8 pillars actually kind of do, and how do you think that it's not going to make us any more vulnerable as well. So let's talk about it. Good morning.
Cybersecurity refers to the body of technologies, processes, and practices designed to protect networks, devices, programs, and data from attack, damage, or unauthorized access. Cybersecurity may also be referred to as information technology security. It is important because government, financial, and medical organizations collect, process, and store unprecedented amounts of data on computers and other devices. A significant portion of that data can be sensitive information, whether that be intellectual property, financial data, personal information, or other types of data for which unauthorized access or exposure could have negative consequences. Organizations transmit sensitive data across networks and to other devices in the course of doing businesses, and cybersecurity describes the discipline dedicated to protecting that information and the systems used to process or store it. The global cyber threat continues to evolve at a rapid pace, with a rising number of data breaches every year. A report by Risk Based Security revealed that a shocking 7.9 billion records have been exposed by data breaches in the first 9 months of 2019 alone. This figure is more than double, 112%, the number of records exposed in the same period in the 2019. This figure is more than double, 112%, the number of records exposed in the same period in 2018. For effective cybersecurity, an organization needs to coordinate its efforts throughout its entire information system. Pakistan is also being one of the top targets of foreign espionage. There are increased calls within the country to devote more resources for securing computer systems, investing in the security of the country's digital infrastructure, and strengthening cybersecurity research and development. For that matter, Ministry of Information Technology and Telecom has taken some important initiatives to compete application exploitation, mobile device exploitation, network attacks and exploitation. Pakistan needs a strong cybersecurity framework to counter identity theft, financial data theft, and surveillance of critical infrastructure.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's what we are all about these days as well. And in days to come, we are going to be about digital infrastructure, structure, and how digitally available we are for the rest of the world. I think this is the way forward. But very quickly, this is something which we want to talk about, the correlation between cybersecurity and digital Pakistan, sir.
Okay. So, like I mentioned earlier, in the digital space, your data, your processes are on the digital infrastructure.
True.
So it's very important that you secure the infrastructure. It's very important in the respect that the end users, the citizen, the businesses, the government officials who are using this digital infrastructure, they have trust in this digital infrastructure. We still see that people are somewhat reluctant to use internet for financial transactions because
True.
we still have to build that trust. So we realize that unless we build the trust of the citizen and businesses on this whole digital ecosystem, we will not be able to transform Pakistan. So that's why privacy and security are two fundamental pillars. So on the privacy side, we have data protection. That's more related to processes, and then it also uses the security as well. And on the security side, recently, few months back, Pakistan had its first national cybersecurity policy.
Yes.
Because different organizations are working on cybersecurity, but to have a holistic approach and secure the whole digital ecosystem, it's important that we collaborate. All the stakeholders should collaborate, and there is one central body who is collaborating. So this cybersecurity policy brings in a body as well, which is central, which will collaborate with every stakeholders. And we have developed a governance model as well for Pakistan, where there is a three-tier approach where there'll be a body, then there'll be a national level cert, then there'll be sectoral level certs, and then relevant operators and organizations, they will be interacting with the sectoral certs. So there is a framework now in place. But if you talk about the cybersecurity policy, there are multiple pillars identified for which we have to work collaboratively.
Can you please
So,
summarize some of those?
I think one for which we'll talk on the hackathon is skill development and indigenization. So indigenization both in terms of product development and skill.
Okay.
When you talk about cybersecurity, you cannot rely on foreign products
Obviously.
and foreign skills all the
Right.
time.
You have to
So
be indigenous.
it has to be indigenous. On the other hand, it's not possible that you indigenize everything, but you make a cost benefit analysis and focus on certain areas which you think are critical. So skill development and product development have to be indigenized. At the same time, we have to have the right governance model. So our cybersecurity policy puts in place a governance model. We have to have the right rules, regulations, statutes, which we are working on. So that's this cybersecurity policy also talks about that. Then the trust factor, that how to build the trust. And one important thing is awareness. And I think that's one area where media plays a very important role. That we still have to go a long way as far as awareness of cybersecurity is concerned in the general public. So both cybersecurity and privacy, even today we don't realize how important our data is that we share on the platforms.
Absolutely.
So realization by the masses, by the end users of the security needs, the damage it can cause, both the privacy issue and the security issue. So if our data is exposed, I mentioned the number, $20 billion loss in the last 1 year. This is also estimated that maybe over 500,000 attacks every day for the ransomware. So these numbers are increasing. So in the cyber world, we say you are exposed or you have been hacked, or you know that you have been hacked. It's not that we have not been attacked. It's just that we don't know. So when there are so many attacks, so we have to be aware and we have to be ready.
Exactly, and I guess I'm going to add on over here because this was something which was supposed to happen in 2020, and they said that it's almost going to kind of cater to $45 billion. And imagine if you're talking about $20 billion losses, so where the market will eventually be. But sir, when we talk about digital Pakistan, obviously we are kind of saying that, hey, you know what, we really need to tap the digital market. We need to kind of move on towards the economic growth and then the empowerment of the people. You kind of talked about it, that we really need to kind of build up that trust. But how do you think that this digital Pakistan policy is actually going to kind of help everybody? Because people over here, even till now, have not been to a bank branch as well to kind of deposit their money. They keep it at their places, and we're still talking about it. And once we start to do that, obviously, tax refunds, everything, it's going to be so simpler and easier even for the government and for the individuals as well. And, right in front of you, it's just honesty everywhere.
If you look at the overall ecosystem, you see there are many apps and platforms coming that provide digital services to citizens. There is one ICT Islamabad app where you can get services of the government, over 30 services. You can just get from one platform, but then there are financial transactions attached to it. So unless we have that awareness that this is a secure platform, and government takes appropriate measures to secure this platform, and over a period of time people use it and they see that it's secure, so then they build, the trust is built. So awareness is a very important aspect. Then a secure cyberspace where repeated use or the experience is good because it translates to the masses. So building the right experience of the citizen on this digital ecosystem, that is important. So once you use it and it's secure, you don't encounter problems over a longer period of time. So you have that trust in this digital ecosystem. So we have to work on these multiple things simultaneously to build that trust.
And not just that, sir, in addition to that, because I've done it myself as well, ladies and gentlemen, even while your phone is locked, your mobile phone is actually kind of monitoring your activity.
All the time.
Whatever website you're going to go, whatever financial transactions you're going to kind of do, it has records of all of them as well. It knows your passwords and whatnot. So everything is in there. Now, there's one more thing which I want to kind of add on to as well, because you said that we really need to be indigenous in this sphere. So if we are to be indigenous in this sphere, don't you think that the hardware really needs to come from Pakistan as well, and then the obviously software and the people who are actually going to help us with that need to come from Pakistan?
Okay, let me first respond to very important point that you just highlighted, that your mobile or whatever applications we use,
Yeah.
when we install it and when it asks for permission for our data, we don't even look at the terms and conditions.
It's so
It's
long.
so
It's so tiny. that
So there are some countries, they are actually bringing in regulations where they have to, these solution or the application
Yes.
providers, they simplify their terms and conditions, but it's very important for us to understand the permissions that we are giving to others for our data. So that's, they are earning on it. That's our data is our asset, the data bill that we are bringing, and that's global practice, that we are the owner of our data.
True.
So if someone is earning on that data, so they are earning on our asset, so we should know that. So that's one aspect of awareness, that while we are using these applications, we should be careful that what permissions we give these applications for. So coming back to your
the
second
indigenous aspect of it, of the
hardware. So I mentioned that you have to draw a cost benefit analysis. Hardware development, it's an ecosystem that has to be built. As far as the skills or the software is concerned, the important ingredient is the raw material is human resource. So if you have built the right human resource, you are good to go. But as far as hardware development is concerned, you have to have a whole ecosystem. You need to have right economies of scale where it's viable for the businesses as well.
And it is important, right?
It's important. It's important because as far as the actual implementation of the security solutions are concerned, it's a lot is dependent on the hardware. So that comes in with these security solutions. So indigenization is important, but we cannot go on a direction where we do the indigenization, the product cost goes high because of the volume that is involved locally, and it's business prohibitive for the companies. So we have to draw a balance line where to do indigenization, and then probably the government facilitation has to come in so that the cost can be lower. But at the same time, it's again just not that we focus on hardware. We have to support the universities. Universities have to produce the right human resource for this hardware development. So when we talk about skill development, this hackathon, this is Pakistan's first hackathon, but this is to build the skill on a shorter term, tap the right human resource, and provide some practical environment to the kids, to the youth, where they can implement their ideas and they will learn. But on the longer term, we need to have regular courses, regular programs in the universities which are focused on cybersecurity. There's an estimate, probably it's 2 years back, that almost 4 million unfilled jobs in cybersecurity. So you can see the gap
gap is
between the
major.
demand and supply. We have the human resource. So if we create the right human resources, create the right skills, the demand side is there. So you will have the job opportunity for your youth. At the same time, you are capable to secure your cyberspace. So it's a win-win situation for us. So we are focusing on this. This is just one step as far as this cyber hackathon is concerned. But we are taking other measures, collaborating with other relevant stakeholders, that we have to build our human resource on a longer term.
Definitely. And we want to actually talk in detail about the hackathon as well, but where you said universities and educational institutions have to actually come up with stronger plans to develop a better human resource for the future as well. I feel like that's true. And of course, we are sort of seeing the change. But one of the things we have spoken about before as well, we wish that in primary or secondary phase of schools, I wish that this becomes compulsory. Because that is the young impressionable mind that you train for the future. If we are to exist in a cybersphere in the future, if this is the fifth generation warfare, and this is how the world will operate, I feel like each and every person needs to know at least the basics.
And I want to add over here, and
Okay.
thank you very much for saying that, Shiza. It's because of the fact that I still remember that that the school we used to go to, obviously it was one of the best schools at that time. So we
Yeah.
had computers and we had a computer lab, but the computers were so expensive and the school was so happy that they have actually procured a few computers that they didn't even let us turn them on. You know, so I
Yeah.
think that that mindset really needs to kind of get away as well from the school's aspect. I mean, in universities, that's the time when you really get your hands-on experience as well. But within the schools, if you guys is listening to us today, please make sure that you give those children an opportunity to explore the computer themselves and the internet themselves with obviously checks and balances.
Absolutely. And you know what? I feel like where you were saying that we need to also have a stronger budget if we're talking about indigenization, the government does realize that. And since the policy came out this year, yesterday actually about 2 billion rupees have been allocated to work on it as well, which is brilliant. And as improvements or, as we keep on moving to the next phases, we will keep updating you too. Now about the hackathon, the prizes are worth millions of rupees. It's like you said, it's one of the very newer things over here. What are some of the things that we will be seeing in that? Who are the participants and what is the purpose of this?
And why is the government promoting ethical hacking?
Okay.
Ethical, oh yeah, interesting.
Okay. So basically, this is a cyber drill
Okay.
where we will be providing simulated real-time challenges to the participants.
Okay.
They will